So this used to be my hoodie, and now I guess it's hers. So I did what any reasonable, well-adjusted adult would do, which is not pick her up, gently move her aside, claim it back as my own, but make a whole new one. Out of a blanket. Hi, I'm Sam and welcome to The Uneven Stitch, where we make alternative fashion, questionable sewing choices and apparently revenge garments. Today, I'm going to be showing you how I turned this into a super oversized hoodie that's cozy, soft and preferably not covered in cat hair. So, if you've ever wanted to make your own oversized hoodie, or if you have a pet that likes to steal your clothes out of spite, this is the tutorial for you. So of course you're going to need your blanket. I picked this one. It was $14.99 from HomeSense. I love the pattern and it was non-directional as well, which meant I could play around with how I positioned my pieces. You're going to need some sharp scissors. Not only are these cool, but they're also really sharp, and I've put a link in the description if you want a pair like this. You're going to need some pins or clips. I prefer pins because I like to stab things, but you do you, and a lint roller just in case. You're also, of course, going to need a sewing machine. In case it wasn't clear yet, I decided to do a little sketch of what I was making, and you can see this is a very professional drawing. Very professional. So because we're making this oversized, we can have a bit of fun with the cutting out. We don't have to be too precise, which is good because that is boring. However, I should probably check that I've got enough fabric to do what I think I can do first. So essentially what we're going to be doing is kind of cutting two rectangles out of these bottom corners. The fold is going to remain at the top, and I want to try and keep the length so that I don't have to hem the sleeves or the bottom. And the excess fabric from here and here is going to be used for a hood and a very big pocket. Okay, so this is it as is at the moment. I'm thinking maybe this may need shortening a bit, but we'll see how I feel when I sew it all together and do the first try on. Maybe narrow the arms as well, but again we'll sew it all together and see how I feel about it. What we do need to do now though is sort out our little part here where my head's going to go. To make sure the head hole was nice and central, I folded it in half so I could find the center point and then just made a little slit along the top. I rounded that off at the front just so it wasn't like too close to my neck and felt like it was choking. And then once that was cut, I tried it on to make sure my fat head would fit through, which luckily it can. Now onto the pockets. I just picked one of the off-cut pieces, doesn't really matter which one, but I did make sure to trim off the hems that were attached because I did not need them. Again, we folded it in half, cut the diagonal top corners off to get our pocket shape. This may look a little bit big at the moment, but remember we're going to be having seam allowance, so it will end up shorter. Before that though, diagonal corners do need folding and top stitching down because they're not going to be attached to our garment. So for the pocket, I folded the top edge over for the seam allowance. I placed a pin in the centre because what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up with the centre pin I placed on the fabric. When that goes here, like this, I know my pocket is perfectly central. I'm going to sew down now this top edge and every other edge apart from the diagonals that we just sewed. We want to leave those open so we can get our hands in. Now that our pocket's nice and securely attached, we can sew it together now, folding it in half inside out to make sure the seams are on the inside. We're going to sew down the arms and the sides. Do make sure that you take care when you get to the corners, and I like to backstitch when you get to the ends for more secure stitching. Okay, that was a lot. So, side and arm seams are done. All I need to do now is attach the hood and thread some elastic through the sleeves, and we're done. However, I'm going to get some lunch because that felt like a workout, and I need to put my energy levels with some soup. You've got to be kidding me, coconut. Coconut. Thank you. Now that all criminals have been dealt with, you can start work on the hood, so place 2 of your leftover pieces together and cut it into a hood shape. If you don't know what a hood looks like, just copy what I'm doing on screen right now. You should have 2 symmetrical pieces which need to be sewn on that curved edge. Once that's been sewn, you'll have something that looks like this to try on to make sure it fits. And to attach it to the main body of the hoodie can be a little fiddly. So make sure you're matching up the centres of the front and back. I mark them out with pins, and then it's about half an hour worth of pinning to make sure everything stays in place. You may want to make sure your eyebrows are free of any fluff from the blanket, which I just did there. And once that's sewn, you are good to go, my friends. At this point you can give it its first try on to make sure it fits the way you like. I was happy with the length, but I did think the sleeves were a little too baggy, so I am going to narrow those down a bit. And there are a lot of threads left over, so they do need trimming. However, before I could do that, the door went. Of all the luck in the world, why then? After removing a triangle from my sleeves to make it a bit narrower, I re-sewed that part, and then I was happy with my finish, and here it is. Look at how cute this is. Ah, this is so warm. This is exactly what I wanted. This has turned out so well. I think my lungs are only 95% off cut fluff. So, moral of the story, never let your cat win. Unless she's cute. There you go. If you like this chaotic little project, thank you for sticking to the end. You might as well like, share it with your fellow blanket wearers and cat mothers, and I'll see you in the next video for more weird sewing adventures.